for the gifts that we have to give, and for this community that truly seeks to live out its covenant, that love is the spirit of this church and that service is its law. May we be grateful.
I find a rock with sun on it, and a stream where the water runs gentle. I find a rock with sun on it, and a stream where the water runs gentle, and the trees which one by one give me company. So I must stay for a long time until I have grown from the rock, and the stream is running through me, and I cannot tell myself from one tall tree. Those are the words of Nancy Wood, which Elizabeth read earlier. And those words express poetically the theme of environmental spirituality. That's one of the two themes I want to address this morning. And in those words, it's not just being inspired by nature, it's being at one with nature, blending with it and joining it. I have known that feeling. The feeling of oneness, like I'm connected to the sunset or to the forest around me. Sometimes it's a strong feeling, sometimes it's subtle. I felt it in the last 2 days visiting Indianapolis, walking and jogging by the river downtown, White River State Park, with the waterfalls and the sunset, and the bridges, and the statues, and the grounds of the zoo. So Nancy Wood expresses that poetically, environmental spirituality. I'd like to express that theologically as well. Theology means how we understand the big questions in life, such as, is there a God? What happens to us after we die? And what should we do until we die? I have come to embrace a theology known as religious naturalism. For some people, some religious beliefs, there's a division between the natural world and the supernatural. People who have a supernatural theology, they would say that in addition to the natural world that includes the earth and space, there's a supernatural force as well. There's something outside of nature that created nature, or some supernatural force that controls or directs our lives. For many religious people, they call this supernatural force God. By contrast, as a religious naturalist, I believe that nature is all there is. There is nothing that's outside the category of nature. There is no outside force. That's a different category that we would call the supernatural. But to me, everything within the natural world is worthy of reverence and wonder. The miracle of a baby being born. The power and majesty of the ocean. The mystery of the stars. Consider black holes, for instance, where scientists say that time doesn't exist. The breath within my body. The love and connection that I feel between me and you, even though I don't understand it. All of these are part of nature. So my understanding of God, when I use that word, it's the mysterious energy that connects us. I feel it flowing through me when I'm walking in the forest. I feel connected to something larger than me that I don't understand. And the easiest name for that is God. I feel the same energy flowing outward from me to people and animals. And I call this love. So, given that, I can sum up my theology in the words on a coffee cup that I found at work the other day in the cupboard where it says, God is love. Works for me. Very simple. God is love, and nature is everything. That's my theology. John Denver expressed this idea also. He wrote a song about a young man who goes to Colorado to find himself. It's one of my favorite songs. I'm going to skip to the second verse of that song because this verse really expresses what I'm talking about here. He climbed cathedral mountains. He saw silver clouds below. He saw everything as far as you can see. And they say that he got crazy once and tried to touch the sun. And he lost a friend but kept a memory. Now he walks in quiet solitude, the forest and the streams, seeking grace with every step he takes. And he turned his sight inside himself to try and understand the serenity of a clear blue mountain lake. And the Colorado Rocky Mountain High, I've seen it raining fire in the sky. You can talk to God and listen to the casual reply. Rocky Mountain High. Yeah. He turned his sight inside himself. He turned his sight inside himself to try and understand the serenity of a clear blue mountain lake. There's religious naturalism in this sentiment, just like in the words we heard from Nancy Wood earlier. In those moments, we are at one with nature, and it can be a religious feeling. I know it is for me. Maybe it is for you also. Maybe you find this feeling when you're digging in your garden or feeling the rain on your skin. I'm thinking of the flowers that are in front of me that Carlin Johnson grew in her garden, gathered from her garden, and brought to us to grace our altar this morning. There's a third verse to John Denver's song, and it talks about the second of the two themes that I'm talking about. There's religious spirituality, environmental spirituality and environmental activism. Here's the last verse of the song. Now his life is full of wonder, but his heart still knows some fear of a simple thing he cannot comprehend. Why they try to tear the mountains down to bring in a couple more people, more scars upon the land. And the Colorado Rocky Mountain High, I've seen it raining fire in the sky. You know he'd be a poor man if he never saw an eagle fly. Rocky Mountain High in Colorado. Rocky Mountain High. So the two themes, for me, they're bound together inextricably. Because nature is sacred and divine and worthy of reverence, because it is the source, a source, of our connection to the divine, it's imperative that we protect the natural environment. And yet, what do? We try to tear the mountains down to bring in a couple more people, more scars upon the land. I say we. I include myself in this. The story for all ages today, that illustrates this point as well. I'm very fond of Walter, the hero of the story, the villain and then the hero. And I like Walter because he's similar to me. He's similar to me in his failing. He's similar to me in his green action. He's similar to me in his hope. So Walter fails when he litters, right? And when he makes fun of his neighbor, Rose, for her pro-environmental stance. His green actions are when he recycles and when he plants a tree. And he demonstrates hope in the dream that the book ends with, this dream. How about me? I fail. I fail environmentally when I drive my car instead of walking on errands around town. I fail when I eat meat every day, even though I know that it uses many times more water to produce than a vegetarian meal. And I take green action. I take green action when I dry my clothes in the air instead of using a dryer. I take green action when I install solar panels on my home. And I demonstrate hope by dreaming of the same future that Walter dreams of. This is the world I want to live in. It's green, it's quiet. And remember that in the story, it's when Rose's great-grandson is an adult that this comes to pass. It's going to take us a long time, my friends, and hard work to reach this dream. It's going to take all of us doing what we can individually, communally, and politically, because the problem of climate change and pollution is huge. It's as bad as the nightmare scenes in Walter's dreams. We are cutting down trees to make toothpicks. We have overfished the oceans. I don't have to tell you this. I know because I looked on your church website. You know what it says there? Maybe y'all haven't looked at it. Okay, here's what it says. And this is a quote. Quote, "There is no one in our church who does not understand that global warming is the most important problem ever faced by humans." So I'm preaching to the choir. You all know this already. And since we know that global warming is a huge problem and that we must act to protect the natural environment, let's talk about individual action, political action, communal action. I encourage you to take individual action, making your home more energy efficient. I'll tell you how later. Stay tuned. Maybe eating a little less meat in your diet, more locally grown foods, walking or biking on some of your errands, adjusting your thermostat to use a little less energy for heating and cooling. Is there something you can think of, some small, concrete action, that you, in your mind, could commit to right now? Something that's doable, concrete. I'm going to take a deep breath, and in that moment, I invite you to think of one small thing that you could do individually. And remember that when you think of it and commit to it in this sacred space, Mother Nature is listening. And she will hold you accountable. Think about that for a moment. May our intentions be received by Mother Nature. Secondly, I encourage you to take political action for the environment. The government is distant and inaccessible, it feels like, but it also has a lot more power. The stroke of a pen in federal legislation can do more than 1,000 individuals acting alone. Yet we can make our voices heard through voting, through contacting elected officials, and through protest. Are you aware of President Trump's actions to withdraw from the Paris Climate Accord? Are you aware of President Trump's executive order signed on March 28th in which he revoked many existing policies on climate change and carbon pollution? If you're aware of these political actions at the federal level, and if you disagree with them, have you expressed yourself through contacting your elected officials or through protest? We can and should make our voices heard. And for me, this is a religious issue. Because I told you before, I'm a religious naturalist. So that's my personal theology. We also have a commonly held Unitarian Universalist principle of respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. So that also calls for environmental action. And this is a good moment for me to remind you that the opinions and advice you hear today from the pulpit are entirely my own in the UU tradition of freedom of the pulpit. It's up to you to agree or disagree, to take action or no action. Just because I say it here doesn't make it the official policy of this church. And I affirm the legal and moral right of the church and its members to speak out on issues of conscience and public policy. I believe we must use this space for action and for hope. So, let's talk a little bit more about environmental action, and then we will close with hope. So, green actions, they can be political actions, like contacting elected officials or joining a protest march. Green actions can be personal actions, and each of us has one of those in our mind because we committed to it a moment ago. And we can take communal action. Communal action I'm defining as action at the level of small groups, families, organizations, institutions like this church. Communal action is good in two ways. The effects are multiplied, and it's more fun and rewarding because we do it together. This church has done and is doing many things for the environment. For instance, you have installed 200 LED light bulbs, which collectively reduce the electricity used for lighting in this building by 71%. That's also on your website. You have, here in this building, a recycling program that can accept batteries and cell phones. Not everybody has that. This church is encouraging everyone to participate in a home energy audit. Here's how it works. Experts come to your home for free. They evaluate what your home could do to be more energy efficient. And these cards, I have 3 of them here, and there's more on the table that's going to be straight back when you walk out. For every one of these that we do, or if you give it to a friend and they do it, the church gets $25 for every one that we do or every referral for home energy audits that we complete. Did I get that right, Ray? Okay. This church has solar panels on the roof. So as we sit here, the solar panels are turning sunlight into electricity. Now, I spoke before about federal legislation. At the state level, there's been a recent change in the law, unfortunately, that will make solar panels less cost-effective at the end of this calendar year. So, the green team in this church is making a big push to install more solar panels before the end of the year, before that legislation takes effect. What would it look like if we quadrupled our solar array on the roof? We have to dream big, my friends. It takes commitment. In this case, it takes money. And it takes prioritizing that as a church, if you choose to do that. So I'm a visitor here, but the ones who are doing this work, all the work I just mentioned, are among us. Ray Wilson, would you please stand up? No kidding. Could I ask the other people who are members of the Green Team or who have done this work recently to stand up? Who else has been? Thank you. These are your environmental leaders. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I honor the work that you have done. I bless you with resolve and creativity and hope to continue your work. And I wish you many allies. The reading in our hymnal that I read before by Wendell Berry speaks to that same vision of hope. It has the same emphasis on the generations that it will take to get there, just like our story for all ages. Wendell Berry writes, "The river will run clear as we will never know it." We work today to clean the river for our children and our children's children. Wendell Berry writes, "On the steeps where greed and ignorance cut down the old forest, an old forest will stand." So my friends, we plant trees today that will reach maturity when we are dead and gone. And he says this is no paradisal dream. Its hardship is its possibility. The flowers blooming, the sun and moon, which were the first gods, shining on us and blessing us with their light. The gentle rain, the air that we are breathing now. The parks that our ancestors in their wisdom set aside as green places amid this urban landscape. The fragrant rose and sage plants growing outside your door. All this is sacred. All is worthy of respect and wonder. It deserves to be protected. May we continue to be connected in spirit to the divine inspiration of nature, wherever we encounter it. And may we work together with joy and hope for a greener future. May it be so. I invite you to rise in body or spirit, and we're going to sing our final hymn. It's in the other hymnal, the green or teal one, number 1064, Blue Boat Home.